Hello everyone. Today, with my teammates, Neha, Dave, and Nogel, we are going to talk about our project that is about the comparison of post-consumer recycled composite plastic samples with an standard sample. Our project came up with an answer to mitigate the environmental impact of plastics. As we all know, the plastics are not biodegradable, so every time they are disposed of in waste streams, they accumulate and harm the environment. There is a growing demand for a better sustainable solution, and the post-consumer recycling market is growing rapidly. There are many producers that are partnering with recyclers and waste collection agencies to boost the supply of post-consumer recycled plastics. But the issue is that the post-consumer recycled plastics have poorer mechanical properties than relative repair plastics, and usually the post-consumer recycled plastics are mainly used in applications where the mechanical properties are not required, such as consumer electronics. So with our group, we believe that there is a way to increase or improve the mechanical properties and instead downcycle them, upcycle them, and use the post-consumer recycled plastics in another applications like construction and infrastructure. So the main objective of our project is to test and compare different mechanical properties like tensile strength, failure analysis, and also the impact of the post-consumer recycled plastics to bare plastics.
With that objective in mind, we designed this workflow to achieve that objective. So as you can see, we choose two different types of materials. For bare materials, we choose PE and LDPE. So post-consumer recycled plastic, we choose HDPE. And for glass fiber, we choose three different percentages in order to make a fair comparison. We choose 1%, 5%, and 10%. Followed by the sample preparation stage. When it comes to the sample preparation stage, we had two strategies. First one is to use compression molding for the reinforcement and then use injection molding to create the samples. And our second strategy was to create for the reinforcement, we used the extrusion machine and then we used the injection molding to create the dopant samples. After that, it was the testing part. We conducted two specific tests for our dopant samples, which were iso-impact test and the tensile test. And our next step was failure analysis. We conducted a thorough analysis of the broken dopant samples in order to figure out the breakages. And then we was able to come up with results as well as a conclusion. So talking about the difficulties and the changes of the original plan, the biggest difficulty was the limited availability of the extrusion machine. We was planning to only use the extrusion machine, but it was not available all the time. So we came up with alternative methods. So first we tried to do the reinforcement manually, but it wasn't that much good. So because of that, our second best option was to use the compression molding for the reinforcement and then followed by the injection molding. And even though the compression molding wasn't fully manual, it was kind of partially manual method. Due to that reason, there was an uneven distribution of the glass fiber in the plants. And then in the injection molding, we noticed that always there's remaining material on the chamber. So that remaining material causes cross-contamination in our dopant sample. Followed by when we were about to make dopant samples of glass fiber reinforced materials, every single time the glass fiber gets clogged in the chamber of the injection molding machine. And another one was the incompatibility of the machinery. Our tensile test machine was specifically designed to create dopant samples and only dopant samples. But our ISO test machine as well as the tensile test machine was specifically designed for cylinder type samples. So there was an incompatibility issue. And we faced some difficulties with the tensile test machine because the clamps keep getting out. But we was able to overcome those problems and we created these samples. When it comes to PE, we only use the compression molding. With compression molding, we created three different types of samples. We created bare samples, 5% glass fiber reinforced samples, as well as 10% glass fiber reinforced samples. And when it comes to HDPE, we had two different methods creating the samples. We use compression molding as well as extrusion machine for the reinforcement part. And then in both of these parts, we came up with 1%, 5% and 10% glass fiber reinforced dog bone samples.
So talking about the sample preparations that we made, so as discussed earlier, because of the unavailability of the extrusion machine, we came up with a two-step process of preparing the samples with compression molding and then injection molding. So as you can see, this is the glass that we made as a sandwich with the use of glass fibers and polymers at 180 degrees Celsius. Then once we got the slabs of this, with the help of releasing agent, we got this slabs. Then we cut them into small pieces and then we fed it into injection molding machine where we got the dog bone samples of these fiber reinforcement polymers. So as you can see, these are some of the pictures of the samples that we got from our polymers PCR, HDPE and LDPE. And talking about the extrusion, we were fortunate enough to get hold on to the extrusion machine with the help of research department. So there we were able to make the fiber reinforced polymers of 1%, 5% and 10%. So these are some of the samples which we got through this extrusion. These are the samples which we got from the polymers that we got from the extrusion technique.
Moving on to the testing part, we conducted mechanical testing for the ISOT and for the tensile strength. For the ISOT, we cut the samples of the dog bones through the sides and made into a sample which can fit into the jig. These samples were then tested for the ISOT where the pendulum hit the specimen. Here, just ignore the notch. The rectangular part, the area of contact was determined about the amount of energy required to break the samples. These are the ISOT data we conducted in duplicates and quadruplets, and the mean values we got are here. Doing the graphical interval plot of this, we got the sample data as this way, where we were able to see that by the method of compression molding in the HDPE, we got a decrease in the impact strength results. As you can see, with here it's higher, and with the addition of reinforcement, there was a subsequent decrement. With the extrusion, we got a fairly similar results when compared to HDPE here and the extruded results over here. And the reverse trend, the trend was reversed when we had gone with the virgin PE. So in the case of PE, with the addition of reinforcement, through the process of compression molding, there was an increase in the impact values. As you can see, from here to here, there is an increase in the impact strength results. And the different part was by making the samples or using the coupling agent, there was a high decrement of the impact test results. As you can see, HDPE, and with the use of coupling agent, there was a subsequent decrease, which showed that the coupling agent was not able to bind the matrix and the reinforcement. So we tested the ISOT test results for the by the one-way ANOVA and 2K method, and the thing was the bare the PCR HDPE was not compatible with the bare PE for the comparison, and we had not access to the virgin HDPE to compare with the PCR. Here you can see the groupings of HDPE is not same with the PE. Now going to the method of preparation, there were two: compression and extrusion, as well as the addition of coupling agent. All methods were statistically different from each and every one through the ISOT data. So here all the methods are having a different kinds of results. And the part which was interesting to see was the extrusion and compression methods. Extrusion methods gave a totally different results in comparison to the compression method. As you can see, here EX stands for the extrusion, which had a different group rather than this compression molded parts. Moving on to the tensile test results. These are the compiled test results of the tensile test we had done. Here also, the Young modulus, through Young modulus, we were able to see that the extrusion way was quite better and consistent in increasing the strength of the PCR rather than going with the compression one. So this is the bare HTPE. By the addition of reinforcement, there was an increment in the results for the extrusion, and for the compression ones, there was a decrement. But for the coupling agent, we'll talk about this graph as well. Moving on to the yield strength, the data remained the same. With the extrusion, it remained comparatively same with the HDPE bare, but again a decrement with the compression, as you can see here. Now, as you can see, coupling agent gave a typically different data. Here it was a very high, but suddenly there was a decrement in the yield stress. This happened due to the completely different graph which we had got for the coupling agent. Here are the compiled results which we had all done for the ISOT as well as tensile test.
Now moving on with the failure analysis, microscopic examination of all of the samples that fail under tensile and ISOT impact was conducted to identify the failure mechanism. The first analysis that we worked on was to review the surface of the fractures for the matrix material. In this case, the bare polymers. For the bare PE, bare ATP, and ATP was consumer recycled. And we obtain, or we conclude, that the most ductile samples were the PE and ATP. This was in line with our values of tensile testing, because ductility is inversely related with the Young modulus. So their P and their LDP, they got the lowest values of Young modulus. As well, we saw that the surface of the bare P has fine stretch lines, the bare LDP rough stretch lines, and the HDP, instead of having a stretching, we observe a relatively small surface. After this, we review the failure of between the reinforcement and the matrix. So we analyzed some samples that were created with the two-step process, the compression and the injection. And we found out that the primary cause of the failure was the fiber pull-out. We could see that, as in these images, that most of the glass fiber was pulling out of the matrix. So, yeah, basically that's what we observed. This led to an evaluation that we can either include a coupling agent, because there is no a good binding between the fiber and the matrix, or that we can, the technique by doing the glass and then feed it on injection, it was not giving us a good mixing of the matrix and the glass fiber. So we made another test, adding a coupling agent for 1% glass fiber, and as we can see, we could observe that the failure was not because the fiber pulling out, and instead we observed some jagged edges in the surface, and this is also aligned with our results of tensile testing because the young modulus was highest than the sample without reinforcement. We also made other 3 set of samples using the compounding extrusion with different percentages of reinforcement. Here we observe that we improve the mixing of the fibers and the matrix compared with the molding process, as well as we improve the binding of fibers and matrix. And we didn't observe fiber pulling out in the failure analysis. Instead, we had some jagged edges in the surface, which can indicate that we have a brittle failure.
So with all of those data, we have to address the big question, which is, was PCR a good alternative for bare PCR? The answer is we cannot conclusively determine at this stage due to a number of reasons actually. The biggest reason was we never had access to both HDPE and PCR HDPE. We only had access to PCR HDPE. And moving on, there have been multiple human errors obviously. And furthermore, when it comes to PE, the mechanical strength actually increases with the reinforcement. But when it comes to PCR HDPE, the higher the reinforcement gets, the lower the mechanical strength gets. So that might have been an issue as well. Moving on, since we tried 2 different methods for the reinforcement, the addition between the matrix and the reinforcement vary depends on the method we use. Those type of due to those type of things, we cannot conclusively determine whether the PCR HDPE was a good alternative for the bare one.
So in accordance with the conclusion that we were able to draw from our research project, so we came up with some sort of suggestions that could be helpful in the near future. So first thing was the role of coupling agent. So the proper selection of the coupling agent plays a vital role to determine the compatibility with the polymer, and also the proper concentration of the coupling agent is also one of the important aspects to be considered. And coming to the additives are basically the substances which improve the properties of the polymers with which it's being added. So the additives like plasticizers or lubricants or stabilizers that could enhance the mechanical properties of the polymers. And also coming to the reinforcement, so the most important thing which we observed was the size of the fiber reinforcement which is used. So the size, shape and distribution, it does affect the binding and proper distribution of the fiber or the reinforcement with the matrix. So the distribution, for the proper distribution, the sizes of the glass fibers or any kind of reinforcement is of utmost importance. And also there could be some additional tests that can be further studied on the polymers, such as hardness test or thermal testings, which could give better results. So yeah, this is about our project, and thank you for having us.
So to wrap up our project, we just hope that with the findings that we have from our project, we can help or we can find an alternative to increase the mechanical properties of the consumer recycled plastics, and they can be used in other applications, and as well as downsizing them, we can upcycle them.
Questions?
Yep.
Based on your findings, which reinforcement would you say was the most cost effective?
HDPE PCR.
PCR and HDPE?
Like HDPE post consumer recycle.
But yep. Yep. That answer or
That's good.